From the iHeartRadio studios in New York City, come fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else distorted. But you know what the fuck you are! This is Appetite for Distortion. Try it again!
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. My name is Mirando. Episode 41. Holy shnikes. Last episode, I got to thank again London Hudson, Nico Sangaris, Chris, of course, manager of Classless Act, an up-and-coming rock band. Of course, drummer London Hudson, the 15-year-old son of Slash, his first interview ever, and they are looking for a lead singer. So if you want to audition to be part of London Hudson's band, Slash's son's band, you can. Just hit up Classless Act on Instagram. Can't wait to see what they come up with. But as far as today's episode, my co-host and my co-cousin? No, I can't. That doesn't make sense. You're just my cousin.
I think just cousin.
Okay, yeah. We're second cousin?
Second cousin.
Yeah, Sean. Do I even know Tucilio?
It's. I grew up saying Tucillo, because that's what my parents said. But then I got them to bring back the Italian pronunciation, which two C's in Italian is Tucillo.
Right. So you're half Italian, half Jewish.
That's right.
So you're a pizza bagel.
So, and my mom likes to say I'm Italian.
And it's funny because obviously, like I said, Sean's my cousin, and I didn't know how to pronounce his last name, which is just fucking sad. We don't see each other often enough.
But we've reconnected now, and you could say bad things about social media, but in the last few years, it's been nice, being in touch and seeing what you're doing on the show, and just connecting through our love of Ninja Turtles and
yes.
old Batman movies and stuff like that.
Absolutely, one of the logos for this podcast is the Ninja Turtles font.
I love it.
So that's why we know.
I've been reading Ninja Turtle comics lately, too. Like, there's the new one, the IDW ones that are great. I'll tell you about them off the air. They're great.
Is that spoiler alert? I heard Donatello dies.
I haven't gotten to that. Damn, it is a spoiler,
Oh,
man.
Fuck. I heard about that like 2 years ago. I don't know if that's real.
I'm reading them a little bit after the fact, so it's okay. I heard you might get revived, so who knows? It's comic books,
Well, it was nice seeing you, cousin. I guess I'll never... Well, the reason I wanted to bring in Sean today, because in just a few minutes we're going to interview Christopher Thorn from Blind Melon. And we were supposed to interview him a week ago, and then he had a little sinus infection. And when I posted that, you gave me your little wow reaction on my Facebook.
That's all it took, and now I'm here.
That's all it took. And I'm like, you know what? I don't see Sean enough because I live on Long Island. Yes, I do the podcast and work in the city, but when you say New York City, it's just, there's so many places you can go. Everything's just a pain in the ass to get to. Especially
when there's snow and sleet everywhere as it is right now.
Yeah.
Mountains of, dark snow, and you're just like trying to navigate it all.
I didn't leave my house my apartment for 3 days after the storm on a few days ago.
Yeah.
Today is literally the first time I left my apartment in 3 days.
You're like emerged. You're like,
Yeah. I was doing the old Axl Rose hiding, thing for a while. Then I've risen up like a phoenix. I've always wanted to talk to you about what you have going on because you have a ton of different projects. Always jealous of my relatives who actually have real talent. So what? Because you're in a band now, right? Local?
Yeah, I've been in a band for years called Greg Smith and the Broken English, probably since '04. And two of the guys live up in Western Mass now, but we still get together. We still play shows. And then the background singer, harmony singer, Dana, who is in that band. We kind of have an offshoot of that band now called Another Castle, which is the same guys. Greg joins us sometimes, but it's Dana singing lead vocals, and that group we're playing. We're planning on recording soon. We're playing a show at Arlene's Grocery.
Okay.
A week from this coming Saturday, I think on the 20th.
A lot of bands play Arlene's Grocery, including Mule Kick, which is Frank Ferrar's, the current drummer for Guns N' Roses. That's his other band.
Oh, really?
So he actually plays that venue quite often.
I used to play there all the time in like 2005. We were there. I was in a band called The First Third, and also with Greg Smith and the Broken English when we first started out. We were there all the time. And now, more recent years we play Rockwood and Bowery Electric a lot, but we're excited to kind of go back kind of full circle to to Orleans. It's a great, New York kind of staple now down in the Lower East Side.
Yeah, we're always talking about just the rock scene in general, of course, in respect to Guns N' Roses, but they're always putting on a $5 rock show there. My friend Tommy London from a band called the Dirty Pearls, who were really close.
I know Marty, the drummer,
yeah, Marty
friend.
E. Yeah, he's a huge Guns N' Roses fan. Going to get him on the show at some point, too. But the whole band is really good friends with Lady Gaga. Yep. She's gone on the stage and performed with them well. So that's a really good scene to be a part of.
Totally. Speaking of that New York scene, I also am lucky to be part of this group called Michael T. and the Vanities now on percussion, and mostly as a Bowie. We mostly do a Bowie tribute thing, although we recently did a T-Rex night at the Bowery Electric.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Kind of ever since Bowie passed, I went to see them perform just as a fan right after Bowie passed away, and about a month later, I started playing percussion with them. I filmed them the night that I saw them, and then that sort of kind of got me on their radar, and now it's just like because Michael T's been in the New York scene since the early '90s, like kind of doing his thing. I think he used to work at the Limelight back in the day. That's like him going back, and but he's a great singer and really channels that Bowie thing, does it his own way, and then just a bunch of great musicians. The guitar player plays with a group called Secret Sales that's been on tour last 6 months. I think they just played at the Gramercy Theater recently, but a bunch of really great New York musicians.
Nice.
Yeah.
Before we get to Christopher, who's calling up in a few minutes, there's a really cool story which I didn't even know too much about. Because part of the reason why I have this current job at iHeart is through a friend named Barry, who he doesn't work here anymore, but he got me the job here when he was, and he was also working at a station in New York City called RXP, which until recently, because now we have finally another alternative station here after many, many years.
Right.
RXP was the station. Didn't play Guns N' Roses, but I mean, they played a lot of newer stuff.
Yeah.
But your band you tell it.
Yeah, Greg Smith and the Broken English. I remember we entered into this contest. It was a music video contest. So me and my brother had happened to be. My brother's a film editor and does kind of special effects and stuff on the side, and I do some video editing as well. And we had been making this video for a couple years, just kind of off and on. It was like a green screen deal, and we basically wanted to. It was right after CBGB's closed down. We wanted to make it look like the band was playing in CBGB's, but the club was sort of like dismantling around us and breaking down and exploding around us. Yeah, and it was this whole video, and it happened to be this contest right when we were finishing the video. So we entered the video, and we got to be one of the top 3 bands. And that whole summer, we competed on RXP's like summer-long Battle of the Bands.
Do you know how many bands there were?
I think there was like at least like a few hundred, maybe 1,000 bands initially. But we got to be the top 3 all summer long. We battled it out with these 2 other great bands, and we ended up winning the whole thing. We went on the air. We got studio time, all this stuff, and a week later the station went under. It was just like one of those modern internet radio. Well, it's like it was just sort of like we didn't know what to expect, but we made the best of it. But it was a bit of a bummer at the time. But it's
like what do you go from there? I mean, you get your big break.
It doesn't. Big breaks don't happen that much these days. So that did feel like sort of our big break. And then
RXP was making noise back then. I'm sure many people know the name Matt Pinfield.
Yep.
Big in the rock world. He was the morning host there.
Yep.
I mean, New York has a really big rock scene, and the fact that you beat out all these other bands says a lot. And I think that is a nice little segue to talk to Christopher because, Blind Melon obviously got big really because of No Rain, and he'll explain that, like why that song or if he cared about all that fun stuff. But then they, of course, I can't compare the death of a lead singer to the death of a radio station, but it's like, what do I do now?
Right. Where do we go from here? Yeah.
So that's in addition to you actually being a musician and helping me out, and that part of the. And I always say that with my co-host, helping me out. I'm not smart enough. At least music, reading music and stuff. Not like we're going to talk about music sheets, whatever. But again,
dude, I'm a drummer. Come on, I play a little guitar too, but it's mostly just like, let me play along here. But
this also made me think to bring you on today.
Yeah.
Because London, that band is looking for a lead singer, and they found, I forget if it was the other guitarist or bassist, through Instagram videos. And I know you do that as well. I specifically, I mean, it wasn't a serious one you put up, but it was after Chuck Berry died and you played one of his tunes.
Right.
And it's just amazing. That's another outlet for musicians, whether you're, your age, a couple years older than me, or you're a 15-year-old. It seems to be Instagram now.
Yeah, people, I mean, you just search a hashtag of like cover songs or something, you could find a bunch of, you might find a bunch of noise and, a bunch of stuff you have to sift through, but there's a lot of amazing people out there that, don't necessarily have the right connections, proper channels to get discovered, but they put a video out there on YouTube or on Instagram or something, and the next thing you know, for me, I just do it as a kind of a fun outlet, pay homage to my heroes that have passed away or something like that, or just a song that I'm, Saturday morning I'm sitting around with. But it's an amazing, it's kind of a brave new world in that sense where you can just put stuff out there and get feedback.
Something tells me that Christopher Thorn did not discover Shannon and Hoon on Instagram.
Probably not.
We will find out how he found Shannon, because I believe he's calling up now. So joining us healthy now. I think there's been things going on, whether you're in California or New York, just the sickness that's been going on during this winter. So joining us today on Appetite for Distortion, so excited, Christopher Thorn from Blind Melon.
How you doing?
How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good now. Feeling better.
Where are you calling from?
I'm in Los Angeles today.
So, I mean, you got sick through just trying to avoid all the fires, or is there like a flu going around where you are?
Yeah, man, there's just a serious flu going around. Everybody I know kind of has it and stuff, and I got hit real hard.
Is there? I have to imagine there's some sort of regimen being a musician when you get sick. Just like for me, I don't know. I just wait to die, but I have to imagine there's a tea regimen or something when you get sick.
I just ate a bunch of weed and slept, basically.
I did the same thing.
It's always a solution.
Awesome. So, lots of stuff I want to talk to you about, Chris, and thank you so much for coming on. Because I've been obviously a Blind Melon fan since, what was I watching the other day? I was watching the performance on Saturday Night Live. Sean, I don't know if you saw that.
Back in the day.
I think it was the host who was, I forget the guy's name.
That was, the host was, what was his name? Jason Kirkpatrick or something? I can't remember his name. Something like that.
That sounds right. Close enough. That sounds close.
Guy from Lost Boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Blind Melon.
It was the guy from Lost Boys.
Yes, yes. Okay.
We didn't really hang out with him so much.
What, at the at SNL?
Yeah, not so much him. We hung out with like the cast and people like that, but he was a pretty quiet dude, actually. Nice guy, but
that was a good.
Hang with him, so.
That was a good cast at the time.
Well, that leads us to, and I mean, I guess it's a good jumping off point, because just watching it, I forgot about it, because Chris Farley, dressed up as the Bee from the famous video, introduces you guys, and you put on a killer performance. Did you meet Chris Farley backstage?
Those guys a bunch. Yeah, we hung out with those guys. Yeah. Chris became kind of a friend of the band, and I think Shannon and Chris kept in touch for a bit.
Oh. It was almost like a continuation of the John Belushi Bee outfit from back in the day.
Yeah, right?
that is very true. Yeah, Belushi started that. So just to backtrack everything, because I want to find out more about you, and of course this will cross paths with Guns N' Roses. You grew up in Pennsylvania?
I sure do.
So what was it like for you as a kid? What made you get into rock? What was the scene like there? Because that's what we're trying to do on this podcast, and wonder where rock and roll was, where it's gone. Is it ever coming back?
Yeah, I wonder those same things. In Pennsylvania, there wasn't much of a scene. There was more of like a metal scene there, and I got into music because I was fucking terrible at all sports. So I was sat the bench at baseball and sat the bench at football and sat the bench at soccer, and then I was like, oh, this is not fucking for me, is it? You also had to get up really early for practice, so I knew that was out for me as well. So I fell in love with music. My mother was a musician, guitar player, and I got turned on to the guitar, and that just kind of changed everything for me. But there wasn't much going on in York. I didn't have very many choices. I was in a tiny, tiny little town, a little bit of a metal scene, and that was about it, really.
So what was your first experience with, I guess, a professional band? When did you decide to be like, this is going to be my career? Because you weren't going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. I don't know how
exactly
what kind of a student you were. So what was the decision to be like, this is going to be my path in life?
Man, I just made a hard commitment right when I got turned on the guitar. I was like, this is it. I just knew it was my answer out. You know what I mean? So became completely obsessed with the guitar. It's kind of all I could think about. And I just became obsessed with music and records. And, I got turned on to Bob Dylan. That kind of changed everything for me as a songwriter. And, at the time I was listening to Zeppelin and all that sort of, all the good stuff too. But there wasn't much of a scene in New York, and I kind of knew I had to get out if I really wanted to give it a good shot and really try to be a professional musician. I knew it wasn't going to happen while living in Pennsylvania, that's for sure. So I split in 1988. I split for Los Angeles.
It's always that story, just like Axl leaving Lafayette, Indiana.
Yeah, it's a cliche story, but it works, and it still works to this day. I still meet people to this day who, had a dream. They come out to L.A., and it happens for them, I mean, it's like, I remember people saying to me, like, well, damn, you're crazy, dude. That's like 1 in a million. But I'm like, fuck it. I'm one. I'm 1 in a million. That's like, there are worse odds.
So you're saying there's a chance,
I'm like, well, hey, 1 in a million. I'm one. Okay, so fuck it.
What was all that 1 in a million talk?
That's
so,
awesome.
I went for it, and I met Brad, and that's how I got into Blind Melon, But, yeah, I knew I had to get out of town. And L.A. was just like Mecca, you know what I mean? In the late 80s, L.A. was so fun, and it was a bit of the ghetto. I lived in Hollywood, and it was a nasty place. It wasn't really what it is now, but it was a young place, a lot of young musicians hanging around the city, and everybody was playing, and it was a really great time in the city, actually.
Was it any of a bit of a culture shock? A bit for you to go from a small
100%.
town?
Yeah, 100%. But I had been to LA many times before, like, because I had relatives who lived in LA, and so. But yeah, it was culture shock. But I was kind of prepared for it. But it was culture shock in the best of ways. It just was like, oh, I found my people. Wow, I could be, I could be anything I want to be here. I could reinvent myself and be who I wanted to be in the city, and it was really profound for me and really liberating for me to move to LA,
Incredible.
So I found my peeps.
and speaking of peeps, when did you meet, how did you meet Shannon? What was that first experience like?
I met Shannon. I had met Brad first. I placed an ad, and we had this thing called a music connection, which was like, before the internet was a way, kind of how you connected with musicians. I put an ad in the paper and said I was looking for a bass player. So I met Brad. And Brad came and jammed with this project I was working on for a little bit. And then maybe a year later, Brad and I stayed friends. And then maybe a year later, he said, oh, man, I found this singer. He's incredible. You got to come check him out. So I went over and I met Shannon. Shannon played me a song called Change, which was his song. And then I think he played me like Jane Says. And I was like, damn, this guy's a rock star. This guy's incredible, I was totally blown away by him,
I would love to have heard Shannon Hoon sing Jane Says. Wow.
Oh, man, yeah, he just nailed it. He was we were all Jane's Addiction fans.
Right.
He was
big I always felt there was a little bit of a connection between the Jane's Addiction sound and the Blind Melon sound.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. We were influenced. For us, they were like the most exciting thing in L.A., like talking about culture shock. Like, that's the first thing I heard when I got to L.A., and I was like, holy shit. Like, because it didn't sound like metal. It didn't sound like anything. It just sounded frightening as fuck. You know what I mean? It was like, holy cow, what is this? It was dark. It reminded me of all the things that, like, the Stones made me feel. It was scary and felt like somebody was going to get stabbed. You know what I mean? It was all those great things that rock and roll's supposed to be,
Yeah.
It's awesome. A few episodes ago, we interviewed a guy named Desi Benjamin. I don't know if you're familiar with that name.
I know Desi. Yeah.
Okay, so you know Desi. So he just put out a documentary about...
I'm in that movie.
Oh, are you really? Look, I'm telling you about a documentary that you know that you're in. I love it.
Yeah, I'm in it. Yeah.
So the documentary about that scene with Jane's Addiction and early Guns N' Roses, of course. So on the way...
I didn't see the movie, but I did the interview.
Is the movie out?
Yeah, I think you can get it on. Why am I forgetting the?
Yeah, it's out.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I'll say it after I forget the name of it. Forgive me, Desi. But you can find it on Google Play, on YouTube. But on the way here, and when I found out I was interviewing you, and just listening back to the self-titled record and Soup, and now that we bring up Jane's Addiction organically, on the way here, I'm thinking, Blind Melon was perhaps one more record away with Shannon from being mentioned in the same breath as Jane's Addiction or Pearl Jam or any of those bands, and they should be.
Sure.
I just think you don't have the material for whatever reason, or I guess the amount of material, not the quality
sure.
of it.
Sure. We got cut short for sure.
So that's what I kept thinking, and it's just so awesome, that No Rain still brings a smile to my face. But then going back and digging deeper into the catalog, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so many of these, I think so many people are influenced by you guys, and that's awesome to talk about that you're influenced by. So I kind of
cool.
So want to take those steps back and just find out, again, meeting Shannon and just creating this lightning in a bottle that should be, again, revered in the same breaths of some of the greatest bands. If you guys are, anyway, in my opinion.
Thank you.
One of the best bands of recent memory, last few decades.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We had a good run. We did. We had a good run.
Well, you're going to continue it with the new singer, which we'll get to, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're on fire now. We're on fire again.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to get to that, but I want to talk to you because this is a Guns N' Roses podcast, and you guys did have some experience touring with them and Shannon's relationship. So I want to get to, but still establish more about Christopher Thorn and I guess Shannon in those early days before we get to those points.
Sure. Go away. What do you want to ask?
Yeah. So when you first met him, you're like, holy shit, this is a rock singer. But what was his, I guess, personality, demeanor like? Do you remember the first conversation with Shannon? Do you remember, like, okay, this is, not only is he a rock star, this is like, oh my God, this is where my life is going to go?
Yeah, I knew it immediately. I mean, I just remember coming home after meeting him and telling my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, was not my girlfriend at the time, and just going like, oh yeah, he's the one, He just was like everything I had read about. I was such a scholar of rock and roll history and soaked up every biography I could read and read about every singer and band and blah, blah, blah. And when I met Shannon, he just was like right out of one of my books that I was reading. He was like,
it's happening in real time. It's like,
yeah, he was all those things I read about. He had that charisma. He had that spark. He engulfed the room more than anybody I had ever met. I mean, it was exhausting at times, you know what I mean? Because of that personality was, you couldn't turn that motherfucker off. So sometimes you're like, Shannon, dude, time out, brother, time out. Can you just not talk for 5 fucking minutes, But that was the charm of him, is that he wanted to keep you laughing, and he just talked nonstop. I mean, he really was, he had that
creative
charisma.
energy that couldn't quit, even if he tried.
No, and he was like that always. Like, people say to me, like, oh, did he become a rock star when you guys sold records? I'm like, fuck no. He was a rock star when he was a construction worker in Indiana. Guaranteed. Talked to all his friends. They were like, oh, yeah, dude, he's a mega star,
See, that's why I like
whatever he did.
You either have it or you don't. That's like...
You either have it or you don't, and he had it, he just had so much of it. Not only did he have it, he had so much of it. And at the time, I had been writing songs, but I hadn't written to change. I hadn't written a song like that. So as a songwriter, he dwarfed all of us immediately just from delivering that, just delivering that song alone. We were like, fuck, you wrote that? That's your song? Jesus Christ, that sounds like a classic song,
Right off the bat.
And
what was the first song you guys wrote together?
Probably like Tones of Home. No, that's not true. There's a song called What You Lost, which is kind of cheesy, but that was one of the first ones we wrote, What You Lost. And then Tones of Home wasn't that far behind that.
Right.
But we had like What You Lost, Change. We had a song called $7 Limit, which is god-awful, atrocious.
You got to get those out of your system, though, to get to the good stuff.
You do. I say that all the time. I tell people all the time, you got to write the bad ones to get to the good ones. So I just write. You know what I mean? So I think you got to give yourself that allowance where you just go, I got to write the bad ones to get to the good ones. So
Right.
But I tell you what, though, we quickly formed into who we were, and a lot of that had to do with Glenn. When Glenn joined the band, the sound really changed quite a bit, and we became a lot less metal, I would say, because Glenn was in the band, and Glenn was turning us on to the Allman Brothers and and Blind Faith and all these great records that we didn't really know about, and that kind of helped design our sound, I would say.
So you think you would have started out being a metal band?
Or probably more in that.
I mean, we had, I would say Rogers and Brad kind of had more of the metal, and Shannon, for that matter, had more of the metal than probably myself or Glenn. I was, at that point, listening to kind of so much Bob Dylan and things like that. So I was not as metal, even though I had come from the metal scene. We had all come from the metal scene.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say we started off a little bit more metal than we kind of turned out to be. And then once we kind of started pulling from our roots, from our sort of, country roots and things like that, some of those sounds kind of got into our sound, and we became a lot less metal. And like I said, a lot of that has to do with Glenn.
And I think that showed, now that you mention it, because just looking at Blind Melon and meaning looking as far as pictures and your appearance, you seem like a metal band, but there was this great, metal, of course, is great musicianship, but just like different kind of musicianship you didn't expect. But you guys looked like just an awesome band. Like I said, it was like Jane's Addiction. It was like Pearl Jam. It was the total grunge thing.
Sure.
That's why I gravitated towards it. But it was like a new sound that you guys introduced me to. Because there was no one else like you guys around then.
Yeah, we just did our thing. We didn't really discuss it much. We just, that Blind Melon sound kind of happened from all of us just being in the room together. It wasn't something like we discussed, like I said, and it just happened organically. It just was it really has to do with kind of all of us kind of pulling the song in a direction, and that sort of, that's part of the sound, is each one of us trying to pull it in our own direction, you know what I mean? But yet it ends up in some other place you didn't know existed because of the collaboration between the 5 band members,
Was it the same thing with the self-titled record, yours, that it took a bit to get noticed, or am I misremembering that?
No, that took about a year, actually. Yeah, that.
So the same as Guns N' Roses, then, right? It was the same thing with Appetite. It took a year for that to get off the ground and blew up.
Yeah, but when that happened in a much bigger way. But for us, we had sold probably 80,000 records that first year before No Rain hit, which wasn't a success. It was enough to make us go back and make another record. And then at the last second, we released No Rain, and then that's when that kind of all happened, and then that kept us on the road for another year and a half or so.
It's so what was that feeling like? Where did you feel because that's still a success at that point. It wasn't the success that you would get, but were you satisfied? And then when you put out No Rain, and I don't know if when you were making that video, they're like, oh, this is going to be huge. I can't imagine you thinking that. And did it catch you all by surprise?
Everybody did think it was going to be the next big thing, but then again, we had been told that. We had been told we were the next big thing right when the record came out,
and then a year went by, right?
And a whole year went by, and we were humbled as fuck. So yeah, we had been told we were the next big thing more than once. Okay. But you know what? There was a good feeling, though. I have to say, things felt teed up. I should say things felt teed up because we had done the work, meaning we had stayed on the road. We were playing to 300, 400, 500 people a night, selling out clubs, and we had got a foothold in there, and we had developed a really great live performance. And the word on the street was we were a great live band, and Shannon was nuts, and so we had done a lot of the work. So it definitely felt like things were teed up really well. And then when we saw the video. And I hate all fucking videos, but we were like, okay, that's not super embarrassing. Okay, that's probably going to work, And it did look special. The video felt like, oh, God, yeah, this does feel special. And then when MTV saw it, they were like, nothing fucking looks like this. Everything's, because, it's the grunge era, so everything's really dark, and, all the videos kind of had a very similar look. And our videos, like, bright sunshine, a bunch of hippies,
That's what it was like for me at the time, because I'm 36. I remember that video coming out, and I felt, there was already this feeling in the air of, with Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all the early 90s, that it almost like a resurgence of the 60s in a way, but
no doubt.
That video sort of almost brought it full circle, because now it was hippies, kind of a hippie vibe, maybe connecting to what was going on musically, and it was.
I agree.
It's powerful.
I agree, totally.
Yeah.
I agree. We were the hippie version of that thing that was going on, and
certainly that video. Yeah.
And then that happened in a big way. When that happened. That felt like that happened overnight. It took a year to get there. But when MTV grabbed the video and said, this is going to be – there was a thing called Buzzbin back in those days.
Right, I remember that.
And at that time, if you got into Buzzbin, you were pretty much guaranteed a gold record. It was the golden ticket, basically.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the back of the bus and Glenn going, you realize every band that's gotten Buzzbin has a gold record. I was like, oh, really? Wow. Okay, cool. And then – sure enough, they started playing that video, and within a week, I'll tell you a story. I'll never forget. We were playing Mississippi Nights, which is this great, great club in St. Louis. It's called Mississippi Nights, but it's actually in St. Louis. Great, great place. And you stay across the street from the club. The club's right on the water, right on the Mississippi.
Cool.
And you kind of stay across the street. And I remember waking up and thinking like, oh, fuck, there's like a parade or something. That's whack. That's crazy. Because I could see like there was a giant line lined up down the road. And at that point, we had never really had any lines. You know, we were playing to 300 or 400 people, but it wasn't like there was a giant line outside. And I looked down and people started yelling my name from the window. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And there must have been, 2,000 people lined up at Mississippi Nights for us. And that happened overnight.
That's incredible.
That literally happened overnight. That was how powerful MTV was at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Because when they played your video, they played it to such an obnoxious level that people, they just played it over and over and over again.
And
so
there was no other outlet, really. There was no YouTube.
No, that was it.
Yeah, it was just
It was that and radio, and those two things. If radio grabbed you and MTV grabbed you, you were shot to the freaking universe. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that part happened real fast for us.
I can't even imagine what that's like. So was it before or after then that, because I know there was a certain point where Shannon reconnected, or his sister, right? His sister was friends with Axl back in Indiana?
Yeah, they went to school together. Shannon's sister and Axl went to school together. And Axl was really, really, really good about helping out anybody from his hometown, even if he barely knew you. If he thought you had some talent and you came out to L.A. for the dream, he searched you out and helped out. And he really, fell in love with Shannon and thought Shannon was a superstar. And I remember the night Shannon got the call because he asked me to go with him. He's like, man, Axl just called me and wants me to come to the record plant to sing on some songs. I was like, holy shit, let's fucking go. And we went down there and Shannon sang on, I don't even know, 4 or 5 songs that night alone, I think.
Right, yeah, a bunch of, obviously Don't Cry being the major one because he's in the video, but a bunch of stuff on Use Your Illusion.
Exactly.
When I said you were going to be on, I got some questions from listeners. We got listeners all over the world, which is pretty amazing. Not as many as
awesome.
you, but let's talk about Axl. Carla from South Carolina wants to know what it meant to you to be supported by Axl when you first started out.
It was a huge deal for me even at that time. I mean, they're the biggest band in the universe at that point. I mean, in the universe, there's nobody bigger. So to sort of, have Axl kind of bless you and say, I believe in these guys, and you kind of get the finger on your head being blessed by Axl. I mean, it was a big deal, and we knew it was a big deal, and we were really grateful. You know what I mean? We were really fucking grateful. Axl was really good to us. People try to get me to say shit about Axl, and I can't say anything about him other than he might be batshit crazy, but he was lovely to us, and he helped our career so much, and he was always so fucking cool to us.
See, that was her follow-up question with Carla. It's like, what was the Axl you knew than the one that was portrayed in the media at that time? Because at that time, it was crazy Axl. Now, people are like, whoa, he's nice. What's going on here? So from what you're telling me...
Yeah, he was crazy Axl for sure. Yeah, he was... And I saw him be pretty fucking crazy for sure.
And I'm not asking for anything salacious at all. I'm just saying what your perception of him was. But it seems to be very positive.
Well, people were scared the fuck out of him. I do know that. I do know that the crew would just kind of back away whenever he walked through the hallway. And, people were in fear of him. I wasn't, because he was always so cool to us because we were Shannon's buds. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was always super cool to us. But he ran a really tight ship, I tell you, man. He ran a tight ship, and people were on eggshells around him, I can tell you that.
Why do you think
it was crazy. I don't know, man. He was a perfectionist. I tell you what, he got off, I would see him get off stage every night and go back to his room and watch the entire fucking performance and take notes. So, he was like, he was really a pro, man. I got to tell you, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about, just being professional. He was very fucking professional at that point. You know what I mean? They were playing stadiums, so it's like, you just can't afford to be, you can't afford to be okay when you're playing stadiums, So he took it really seriously and ran a really tight ship, And they were amazing every night, They were amazing every night,
You guys did you guys tour with them at one point, or I know you toured with Soundgarden?
Oh, we toured forever with those guys. We did all of Europe with them. We did all of We did all of Europe. We did all of America. We did Mexico. The very first tour we did was all Mexico. They rented a MGM Grand plane, and we got on the plane with them and did a whole tour of Mexico. That was one of our first tours we did with them.
What was that plane life like?
It was awesome if you were in Guns N' Roses, because you walked on the plane.
Yeah.
You walked on the plane, and there would be like lobster and shrimp and like a bar, like right when you walked in, and they were like, yeah, that's not where you guys are.
Were you in like the luggage compartment?
They're like, you guys are in the fucking back of the plane with the crew. So it was like a 70-seater, so we're in the back of the plane.
You're on that plane. You're still on that plane.
I'm still on the plane. You're right about that. Good point. I'm still on the plane. I'm in the back of the fucking plane, but I'm least on that plane, you know.
And you can sneak and get, steal some lobsters. It's more fun that way.
Well, I tell you what, it was so funny because, Shannon would wind up sitting in first class with like Slash and Duff getting fucked up every night eating lobster. And we were in the back like a bunch of schlocks, in the smoking section. I just remember everybody smoked on the plane, and it was just like a giant cigarette.
Right.
But no, it was a good tour. It was a really fun tour. But yeah, we there was many a night where Shannon got taken off that plane with some bodyguards just because he was so wasted with Slash and Duff. We'd see them coming down the tarmac, coming down the steps, just out of their minds, wasted. 2 bodyguards picking up, grown men down the steps. It was a crazy time.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
We get off the plane and there'd be like 6 limos and a little van for us. We're like, which one's our vehicle? That limo?
Let me guess. Which
that
one
limo?
it is.
Oh, the little white, ugly a Sprinter van? Oh, that's our vehicle? Oh, fuck. Okay.
That's too funny. Are there any shows that stand out to you in particular on that?
What was the Mexico show? Must have been crazy.
Yeah, those shows stick out to me because they were some of our first shows. And, they weren't arenas, they were stadiums, which when you're young, you kind of don't know the difference. You're like, I don't know, they're both fucking big, right? But no, one's way, way bigger. A stadium is, we were playing to 80,000 people a night. An arena is like 20,000, right? But these stadiums we were playing in Mexico were like 80 to 100,000 people. Wow. So they were just stadiums. Really, they were maddening. They were really, really, really crazy. I'll never forget the end of a song called Deserted, and I'd never seen 80,000 people. They were flicking their lighters to the beat at the end of the song, and I remember that was the first time that ever happened for me, and I just felt like the whole band was levitating because it was just like 80,000 people flicking their lighters, because back in those days, no one had cell phones.
I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Now it's all cell phone law.
Oh, yeah, it looks shitty now, but back in those days it was like a real flame. It looked amazing, and they were turning them on and off to the beat. And I was like, that's incredible. So, yeah, it was amazing. Wild. And people thought, the Mexican culture down there, they didn't know no one gave a fuck about us in the States. They just thought we were megastars because we were Guns N' Roses, playing to all these people. But we were nobodies. But yet in Mexico, like, little Mexican girls are waiting for us at the hotels, and we're like, wow, this is great. We're fucking rock stars. This is amazing.
Stay in Mexico.
And then we didn't sell any records for a year. But at that point, we were like, this is going to be easy. This is awesome. We thought it was going to be like, jets and limos the whole time, and we were wrong.
Actually, this leads to another question from a listener, Iman from St. Louis. Then he wants to know how your recording of your first record differed than Soup. Because did they put any more pressure on you to be the next Guns N' Roses since they had time?
No.
No?
No, we had never felt pressure. That's the one thing I could say about the music business back then compared to, what it became. No, we had never, I tell bands this all the time. I'd never even heard the word single. Like no one ever said to us, hey, you've got to make sure you have a single and you've got to make sure you write these sort of songs. And no, hell no. We were like, leave us alone. I mean, that's kind of like, back in those days, the music business was smart enough to go, hey, you know what? We kind of don't know what's happening here, but you kids know what's happening, so we'll follow your lead, and you guys do what the fuck you want. I mean, honestly, we had 100% creative control.
That's amazing. Because probably 5 years before that, in the 80s, things were still maybe more single-based, but I guess the ushering or whatever
Absolutely,
you want to call grunge, like maybe change that a bit to be more album-focused.
That's an interesting thought process. Or I never even realized that.
Yeah.
Or that maybe a lot of those bands back then were kind of like, hey, let them do what they're doing.
They're doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just cut loose, and it was like we just kind of took over the airways, and we didn't, there was never a discussion about that. So coming into the Soup record, we didn't have pressure, or if we did, we were too naive to even realize it because we had just sold a shit ton of records. We were like, fuck it, we're rich. We could do whatever the fuck we want now. You know what I mean? So I think we would have felt a lot more pressure if No Rain wouldn't have happened. Then, yes, we would have had pressure because then we would have been fighting for our survival.
Okay.
Because if No Rain didn't happen and we didn't deliver a hit, we were done. I mean, you know what I mean? We were done. As cool as record companies were back then, it is about money. So if we wouldn't have sold records, we would have been done,
But you could coast on that one big hit. If you have that one mega hit, you can really coast on it, and it takes a lot of the pressure off. Yeah.
That mega hit made us say to the company, you know what, just leave us a fuck alone again. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Just leave us alone. We're making our own record, So we didn't even have the A&R guy come and hang out with us during that Soup record. You know what I mean? We just made the record and delivered it, basically,
Was there anything creatively that you wanted to do different? And again, I gotta, it's a Guns N' Roses podcast. Got to compare. Axl famously said he wants to bury Appetite, and that's why he made the Illusion so grand. Was there any vision that was different after your success? To be like, hey,
I think we wanted to bury No Rain.
Okay,
I definitely think we wanted to bury No Rain because I think No Rain became bigger than the band, and it was the one weird song on the record. It wasn't the song that sounded like Blind Melon. So I think we had a frustration. I think we were real grateful for that hit because it saved our ass, but I think we were kind of frustrated that wasn't really the sound of the band. We had felt like so many other songs felt like the sound of our band, So I think we wanted to come in there and bury No Rain, and I think we just didn't really care about hit songs, and we just wanted to make a really great piece of art. I think that's where our head was,
And you guys did, I think.
What was with Galaxy? Was that chosen as to be like the single? Because it's to me, it's much more of an album. It's much more of a you don't listen to, No Rain obviously stands out in the self-titled, but this felt more of just like you got to listen to this album straight through.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that's the sort of record we made. And the record company picked that as a single. Like I said, we never thought about singles. So
Right.
they were like, oh, okay, we think we can get this on the radio,
Right.
I do know they were bummed. That was the first time we had ever heard the company go like, oh, man, this record's dark. I remember hearing, oh, the record's so dark. You know what I mean? I remember them being kind of bummed about that. I think they wanted a No Rain, but they were not going to get it.
It's not that dark, actually. It just doesn't have the Sunshine No Rain track on it necessarily, but it's not like a...
No, it's like Partly Cloudy.
Yeah, it's partly cloudy.
Yeah, it's partly cloudy. I mean, the lyrics are pretty dark. I mean, Shannon was going through some shit, so I think, they were hearing some of those lyrics going like, oh, what's going on here, guys?
Yeah.
And it was shortly after, though, that... Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, because we don't need to... I don't want you to relive too much of that. But what was the decision for you to, I guess, disband? Mainly because I asked now, because you look at bands, again, like Stone Temple Pilots, who, Scott Weiland, and even with Chester Bennington, will Linkin Park do anything in the future? So, I mean, what was the decision to disband? Because there are some bands that will try to continue. But
yeah, well, we did try at first, but we didn't know any better. I mean, we didn't know what else to do. So we did try, but I wasn't into it. I wasn't ready to move on.
Okay.
Even though we had done auditions and we had hung out with some singers, I don't know. For me, my heart was broken. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to move on. I wasn't, even though I went along with it because I didn't know what else to do. So I went along with sort of the group, so to speak. And we never really found that guy until 15 years later when we found Travis.
I mean, I understand that, meaning you weren't ready to move on. And I think that goes within the band, of course, obviously, and then outside the band, meaning the fans. People. Yeah. I'm not even just again relating it to Blind Melon. I'm looking at just the most recent example would just again have to be STP. That it's too soon for some fans. But would you say that it's more up to the band and how you want to proceed in your life and you don't owe fans anything? You can't speak for them, but I don't know if you had a certain mindset to continue for yourself, for the fans, or you just didn't know what you were. Again, I've dealt with sudden loss. Sometimes you just don't know what to do, and it was whatever happens.
I would say I didn't know. Yeah, I would say I didn't know.
That's a fair answer.
I would say, yeah. But I would say ultimately, it's so easy these days on the internet to just judge every fucking buddy, but you can't judge those guys. You can't judge those guys. You don't know the pain they're going through. And let me tell you something. The first thing that you want to do is be around your brothers when you have that pain.
Of course.
So I get that those Stone Temple Pilots guys are like, let's just find a singer and get back to what we do. This is what we fucking do. You know what I mean? It makes us feel good. I want to be around my brothers. And that's a part of their healing process. So, like, you can't judge them for going out and doing it.
Of course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trust me, I guarantee you they wish Scott was around, but he's not.
Right.
So at a certain point, you got to go on. And if that's what makes you feel good, then that's what you got to do. And
you're not finding
that.
Right, exactly. And you're not finding these lead singers casually. You're finding the person that can be their own voice, but also channel a certain energy that
Exactly.
needs. Yeah.
I think that's what took Alice in Chains so long, and I think William Duvall is awesome. He's
fucking amazing.
When I first heard it, I'm like, this sounds. I mean, you can't replace Lane, but I'm like, I still love this music. I'm gonna get there.
I do too. I saw the show and I was like, I love these songs. I want to hear these songs. And Jerry's a god, and he's fucking the shit. And I want to go see fucking Jerry and the guys play these songs.
Right. I think that's what a lot of it too is the live experience, because you hear about STP and a new singer, and you watch a YouTube clip, and you can, there's going to be an internet troll who writes it off, and then you go see it live, and once again, it's not going to be Scott, but you get that feeling live with the crowd around you, and all these fans, and that's what continuing these legacies is about.
Well, not dealing with a death, but that's what my feeling was with AC/DC with Axl Rose, and recently interviewed Scott Ian, who said the same thing. Yeah. When I first heard about it, I'm like, even though I'm an Axl fan, I'm like, that's just weird. And then I started watching clips online, went to the show, blown away. Scott Ian said it's the best. Scott Ian said it's the best AC/DC show he's ever seen with Axl Rose. I mean, that's
cool.
That's insane to me. Cool. So I guess everyone is different.
But you learn as you get older, and sort of bands that have like this sort of legacy, whatever the fuck that means.
Right.
You realize the songs are bigger than the band, and it's a new thing that you kind of deal with as you get older. You go, you know what? The songs are bigger than the band. People want to hear the songs.
Yeah.
So, and that's liberating. You know what I mean? It's not about us. It's about the songs. So it's like, it feels good to go out and play these songs for people. You know what I mean? And it is us. We wrote the damn song. So we're allowed to go out and play these songs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Then another question that leads into this. Mr. M from Ireland, he wants to know, what was the first conversation like when you decided to look for, which would eventually become Travis? So when was the first conversation about finding
Well, it didn't even happen that way. Brad and I were record producers in Los Angeles, and Atlantic Records. We would get calls all the time from record companies going, hey, this guy's a fan of Blind Melon. Will you write songs with him? We're thinking about signing him, blah, blah, blah. So that's how we met Travis. We were not looking for a Blind Melon in any way. We met Travis, and we wrote 3 songs with him and recorded them, and they were fucking badass. And, Brad and I were like, God damn, this kid reminds us of Shannon so fucking much, And then that's how we were like, man, would you ever want to sing Blind Melon songs? And he was like, you kidding me? I'm the biggest fan ever. So that's how that happened organically. We weren't actively searching for a singer. That happened fully organically.
That's the best way to do it. I mean, that's such a blessing.
It is the best way. Yeah. And that's why it kind of felt real, and it felt real again. It didn't feel like we're doing this for money. We didn't feel like we were doing this because the record company told us to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's totally.
If we were doing it for money, we would have done it 15 years earlier, because that's when all the money was.
See, that's another thing. That's another thing that fans say, that whether it's a replacement of someone who, whether it be a death or the band broke up, that sometimes it's just a money grab. Of course, that being with Guns N' Roses. Are they friends again, or is this just a money grab? But to hear for you that this happens so organically, I think is the best way, and I can't. That has to translate live, which is probably the most challenging thing, more than in the studio. No?
Yeah. We knew immediately when we started playing those songs with Travis. We're like, oh, we can go out and do this, But yeah, it's frustrating when people, say it's a money grab, because the truth is I took a pay cut to go out in 2007 and do Blind Melon again. I was a working record producer making 5 times the amount of money that I did in Blind Melon. So it's like,
Interesting.
it was real frustrating. People go, no, you're doing it for money. I'm like, fuck no, I'm not. Trust me, I'm taking a pay cut. I want to do it.
Right. You want to see my W-2s? I'll prove it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was frustrating hearing that from people saying, no, trust me, we're not doing this for money. We lost our ass on that tour, but we wanted to go out and play songs for you guys, so.
Right on.
And I don't believe, people want to say things with Guns N' Roses, and yeah, are they making tons of money? Yeah, but you know what? In the end, you do it because you fucking love it. You know what I mean? It's like, you think the Stones are out there because they need to make money? No, they do it because they love it.
Yeah.
And it's still the best high you can ever have.
Right.
So that's why bands do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. You can tell. I mean, you can tell when someone's together for the love of it, and money may be a part of it. But if it's Motley Crue, they were open. We hate each other.
Exactly.
That's why I didn't want to go see them on that last tour. I mean, I'm like, you guys hate each other. Like, well, why?
Yeah, that's no fun.
It's just going to be depressing. Another thing we talked about, was there any conversation once you met Travis to work with him under a different name? Oh
yeah, absolutely. That was the discussion immediately, and then we were like, well, that's weird. We're the dudes in Blind Melon, so we're gonna go out and play our own songs under a different band name, so we become our own cover band. We're like, that's fucking weird.
So it wasn't like, so you were obviously still going to play Blind Melon stuff. It was never like, hey, we're going to completely wipe the slate clean and just start a new band.
No, I mean, a part of me wanted to go out and play those songs. A lot of those songs I never got to play for Blind Melon fans because Shannon died a month into the Soup record.
Yeah.
Right.
The release of the Soup record.
Yeah.
So for me, I had worked so hard on that Soup record, and we had never really gone out and toured that Soup record. So for me, I'm like, I want to go out and play these songs. So it would have been weird to not have the Blind Melon name, and then here I am. I'm in the band. I wrote the damn songs. We all wrote the songs, and yet I can't use my Blind Melon name. I have to go under a different name. You know what I mean? So, and we also thought no one knew who the fuck we are. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, that's something else that we discussed, though, is sometimes the name usage. Like, should Chinese Democracy have been an Axl Rose solo project, or Guns N' Roses, or things in Bobby Blotzer trying to take the Rat name, even though he was an original member. So sometimes that's how these questions come up. But that's interesting that you want to play your songs live and just were kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of robbed of playing them live.
Yeah. Exactly. So we wanted to. So in the end, we decided to keep the name. We knew we'd piss some people off, but we felt like it's the 4 of us. It's the 4 of us. We wrote these songs with Shannon. We deserve the name. You know what I mean? Why don't we use the name?
You do deserve the name. So then catch us up with what's going on with Travis and Blind Melon, because you guys are still doing it, and that's another reason why I wanted to talk to you. It wasn't just a
man, we're making a new record, and and it's felt really good. It's felt really good for the first time in a while, and we're writing really great songs. We're all really, really pumped. We recorded 7 songs here at my studio at Fireside Sound in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago. Around the middle of December, the guys came out and spent 4 or 5 days tracking 7 songs. And, we're just carving out a record. We're going to do a record. We'll do another session, cut another 7 or so songs, 7 to 10 songs, and then we'll have a record.
What was Travis doing before he joined you guys?
He was, like I said, he was being courted by Atlantic Records, and, he was in a couple different bands, and, he had a bunch of interest in the music business. He was the new hot shit in town. And, but he was doing that, and then we went on to do the Blind Melon thing. And but Travis is super prolific, so he always has like 3 projects he does.
Right, of course. He's got that same sort of energy that's hard to contain, I imagine.
Yeah, he does. He actually has it. That's why he reminded us so much of Shannon. He had that same sort of energy and came from a lot of the same background, and
When do you think we, and obviously there's a lot of recording to get done, but when do you anticipate this, like maybe this year or next year, when do you think we might hear it?
Oh, no, I think we have a April, June release.
Oh, even sooner. Perfect.
Yeah. No, we're gearing up, man. We want to go out and play our asses off. We want to play a lot this year. We want to really work this year. We haven't worked in a while, so everybody's really excited to get back to work. So we plan on making this record and going out and touring our asses off.
We'll see you when you come to New York, I'm sure.
Yeah, no doubt. We already have a date in New York, actually. I forgot when it is, though. April or May?
Where are you playing?
May something.
Where are you playing in New York? I should have...
I don't know. Let me see if I can find...
Yeah, look at your Wi-Fi there, Sean. I should have looked at that. I didn't know that you said tour dates because, of course, I was going to say if you're ever in New York, come down to the city, Tribeca. We're in the same building as Q104 and some bunch of other stations.
Oh, are you? Oh, that's cool. It looks like
It
looks like we have the Poison Rouge.
Oh, Les Poussins Rouges.
What is it?
Yeah.
That's a great spot, actually. It's in the West Village. It's right on Bleecker Street.
Oh, okay.
It's a great spot.
Have you ever played there, Sean?
My cousin, because me and Brandon are cousins, but on the other side. Yeah, on the other side.
Okay.
I saw Jeffrey Lewis play there. It's a great spot. I saw Medeski Martin Wood there. I've seen some.
Nice.
Yeah, I've seen some groups there, but it's got great sound too. It's like one of those venues that like it's not a huge space and it's just got this like, but it's like big enough to fill like have a nice big crowd and it's just got a really good vibe in the room.
And then we're playing White Eagle Hall in New Jersey.
Okay.
I haven't been there.
Yeah, I don't go to Jersey often, being a New Yorker. I think the last time was Starland Ballroom when I saw Velvet Revolver. That I made the trip.
Oh, yeah, I love Starland.
Yeah.
Starland,
that was worth making the trek into smelly New Jersey. No offense to our New Jersey listeners.
So, yeah, that's May 2nd in New York City, May 2nd at that Le Poison Rouge. Le Poison.
However you say, yeah, I said it with a terrible fake French accent.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah, no, we'll see you there then. Looking forward to that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're planning on doing a whole run, and I think we have a whole Canadian run after that we're going to do.
That's great.
It's funny because Canadian, my ex-girlfriend from Ottawa, was the biggest Blind Melon fan and Guns N' Roses fan, so she got me more into those bands when I was younger. And I told her when I was interviewing you, I'm like, you're literally the only person I feel that I know that goes really deep into Blind Melon. That made me become more of a fan. So, you were an okay girlfriend, but you got me more into Blind Melon, so I appreciate that.
Nice.
I also wanted, because the more know more about you, you played in live in AWOL Nation?
Yes.
How was those experiences? Because those are also two big bands.
Yeah. I was asked to join live in like 1998, and I did like a record. I did the Distance to Here record with them, and then I played to that Tibetan Freedom concert tour and did a little tour with them. And, it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't my baby. And I'd just come out of Blind Melon at the time, and I really wanted to form my own band. So I left live to form a band called Unified Theory, which I formed with Brad Smith, Dave Cruzen from Pearl Jam, and a guy named Chris Shannon. And we were signed to Universal, and I did that for a few years. And then cut to 2011. I had made 2 other records with Aaron from AWOL Nation. He was in a band called Under the Influence of Giants, and I had made that record with him. And then, he said, I'm starting a new project called AWOL Nation. And so I worked on that song, Sail, which became a mega hit. And then he asked me to join the band after I made the song with him, and I went out and toured for a couple years with him.
So what's the perception for you to be in a newer rock band? Because that's something else we talk about in this podcast. AWOL Nation, then they come out of, of course, the grunge era. There aren't bands like that now. That's what I was talking about with London Hudson, because he's 15 and his guitarist is 15. Like, what are your friends listening to? And they all listen to like SoundCloud rappers. So I'm just curious what your view, and we were talking about it earlier. If you were picked up by MTV, the radio, blow up. But what about now? Like, how do you feel about since Blind Melon is back together again? Getting a song on the radio is not going to be the same thing.
The great thing about our career now is we don't have to give a fuck about radio. I mean, we never did. We got lucky with radio, but we never give a fuck about radio. We just happen to get lucky. And at this point in our career, we don't have to worry about radio. We don't play that game. Who gives a shit about that? We're just trying to make
any level of success. It doesn't have to be radio per se, but it could be like today you get a song in a car commercial or a Jumanji trailer or whatever.
Yeah, it's more about that these days. And for us, it's just about touring. We're making a record so we can go out and tour. That's really it these days.
See, that's why you're a true musician, and then Blind Melon is a true band. And that's what I always felt, that you just
we don't have to play that game. We're not trying to get on the radio, so we can truly make art. We can really make a record like we want to make it. We don't have to chase what's happening at radio. That's an awful way to make art. I don't make art that way. So to me, we do whatever the fuck we want, and either the fan base likes it or they don't, or they tell us no, it's not good enough. It's kind of that simple for us.
What are the new recording, like the session you guys did last month, and what is it? Is it sort of channeling the old Blind Melon spirit, or is it?
Yeah, it is. It is. We write a certain way, and we do what we do. So
Right.
It sounds like Blind Melon. It sounds like Blind Melon for sure.
For sure. Cool.
I can't wait to see you guys live then.
Yeah, we're better than ever. Honestly, we had a really great show in Denver a couple months ago, so we're excited to go out there and play.
Incredible. And I hope it's crazier things have happened. I mean, with Guns N' Roses touring, they get every single kind of band to open up for them. Do you see any sort of path? Is there any sort of still relationship or friendship with Axl, Slash, and Duff that maybe that they would have?
I mean, I know Slash and Duff. I know Slash and Duff, and I don't keep in touch with Axl, but yeah, you never know. That would be wild. That would be wild to play a show with those guys. That would be nice to have a full circle show with them like that.
Exactly, a full circle show.
Go down to Mexico, get a plane, and
right,
get some lobster. No, probably won't.
And maybe we'll get upgraded to the middle of the plane.
Right.
Oh, I love it, Chris. So what's the website, Twitter, all that fun stuff that fans can keep track of what you're doing, what Blind Melon's doing?
Yeah. I guess it's all the, blindmelonband.com, I think, is the website. And we have an Instagram, Blind Melon. It's either Blind Melon Band or Blind Melon. And my Instagram is Fireside Sound, which is the name of my studio. And I also have a website, firesidesound.net, which is my studio, which you can kind of see where we're recording and stuff.
Cool. Awesome, Christopher. I mean, thank you so much for calling in, and thank you for, braving the sinus infection to keep in contact to make this happen. So it really means a lot. And this is just, again, so cool. Another opportunity this podcast has granted me, just someone to talk to that I've grown up listening to. So it's just...
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I look forward to hanging out with you guys in New York City. Let's throw back some beers when we hang out.
Sounds good.
Oh,
man.
absolutely. Maybe some other stuff. We'll eat some weed or whatever.
yeah. We'll get it all in.
We'll see you on Bleecker Street.
I like that.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
See you, man.
Take care, man. Have a great weekend, guys.
You too. So that was cool.
That was great.
So, I mean, I grew up listening to Blind Melon, really just kind of knowing No Rain, like everybody did.
Yeah.
And it's so cool, though, that song, and I can still listen to it literally today and not get sick of it.
Right.
And still have the video bring a smile to my face. But what's a band like Blind Melon, where a lot of people don't do that in today's bands, like if you have that one big single, like that's it.
Yeah.
Or if you go into it, everything else sucks. It's not like that with Blind Melon.
And it took me actually a while to discover that, because I think at the time I was into albums, but for whatever reason with Blind Melon, I heard No Rain. I think I heard Tones of Home, and I didn't delve deeper into that record. And then I think it was probably 4 or 5 years later, I was in college or something, and I for the first time I was going to listen to the whole record straight through, and I think I just kept listening. I think I had it on repeat. It was one of those albums. And then my buddy Zach got me into Soup. And as a guy I played music with in high school, and then Soup was just like on another level too. It's an incredible album.
And it's just so cool to talk to like a straight musician and prepping for this interview. I didn't want to just listen. I'm just going back and watching their live performances, and especially, Chris and just all the musicianship and just Shannon, how rare his voice was.
Incredible.
And that they were able to find somebody to kind of, in the best way that he can, not replacing Shannon, but just breathing life into this band that should still be making music.
I'm excited to see. I'm definitely going to go to that show at Les Poussins Rouge.
Les Poussins Rouge.
Yeah, it's a great venue, and I wanted to go to the show to begin with, but after talking to Chris, I'm stoked to go see them.
Yeah, now I know. I didn't even see. I'm not as hip as you are. You being a scenester in New York, and
not really.
Playing. Well, you're not a typical. We should preface that, because me and my buddy Art Tavano comes on here a lot. He's a journalist out in L.A.
Right.
Always talking about hipsters. No, you're not a hipster, but you're still.
I have brown boots on and tighter jeans, but yeah,
they're not tight jeans.
They're not tight jeans though, but
they don't make me uncomfortable.
Not You got the Storm shirt on though. He's got the X-Men. What is that? 70. I love it.
I just got it off Amazon actually.
My wife actually is a big X-Men fan, and she would like that shirt. That's a badass shirt.
It said unisex, so that's why I bought the Storm instead of the old Cyclops one. But it looks like total 70s retro,
I love it.
like Gem. Like,
right. It does actually. I think I thought it was a gem shirt at first, but I was like, why would Brandon be wearing a gem shirt? But
Well, whatever.
truly outrageous.
She is, and I'm a little outrageous, but no, it's just a Storm X-Men shirt. So, no, I'm not. I'm just weird. That's the way I've always been. Now it's cool to be weird, and that's labeled hipster.
Right.
No, I just can't try it. I'm fucking awkward. That's just the way it is. So that's why I appreciated things like Blind Melon and that video too. The laughing at the girl with the bee.
Right.
That initially sucked me in, and
I got to go back and watch the Chris Farley clip now. I haven't seen that SNL clip in a while. That sounds amazing.
And next time we have Chris on, I want to talk to him more about Chris Farley. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's talk about everybody you know who died.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
It's like, let's talk about Kurt. It's like,
Yeah, no, it's exactly. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of times he probably thinks about Shannon every day.
Yeah.
And why do you want to talk about that? I'm just grateful that he did talk about it to the extent that he did. And I'm not, same thing with Axl, that he saw some crazy stuff. I'm not going to ask, unless he's like, oh, God, I saw him jump off a roof in his underwear.
Right.
But I mean, it's nothing, otherwise I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
I'm not one of those.
But it was great.
One of those people.
It was great just talking to him and really, you got this. He went through, there's just so many stories there in terms of what the band went through and starting out just a bunch of guys with a dream in LA like so many other bands, but meeting Shannon and knowing right off the bat that there was like that electricity in a bottle, and they were able to channel that into such an incredible And
again, the just connecting the dots, how that led to Axl, who I guess again, if you have any sort of semblance of talent and you're from his hometown, he's going to help you.
Right.
And
who else? Was there anyone else from Lafayette that he helped out? Was that the main? That was probably the biggest.
I'd have to actually research that.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top. I'm just a fan with a podcast. I don't know everything. I know a lot, but I don't know everything.
Right.
So that is it for episode 41 of Appetite for Distortion. My name is Brando. Please follow us on iHeart, SoundCloud, Twitter, Facebook, Spreaker, everything that you could find us. Follow, leave a review, and we can do bigger and bigger interviews. And we've been getting just wonderful feedback from all you guys from literally all across the world. So please support us, and I'll keep putting on awesome shows for you, Gunners, you bad apples. And thank you, Sean. You are officially a bad apple. That was cute. Is that too loud?
No, it needs to be louder.
Okay. All right. I think I'm going to hurt myself.
All right, that's better.
All right. So, yeah, obviously this is great. So I guess I'll see you at the next family reunion.
Yeah.
All right. So, again, this is Brando Appetite for Distortion. As far as the next episode is concerned, when will you see it? Well, in the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at the AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/the AFD Show.
Thanks to the lame-ass security, I'm going home. Home. Home.